So now we're looking at the homework activity that goes with midpoint and line length number 1. That's lesson number 1. And for this we've got two questions. Question 1, which is out of 11 points, 11 marks. Question 2 out of 10. We're currently looking at question 1, and we're going to start up here by saying what is the distance between the point A and the point B? Well, let's have a look at A. A is over here at x is minus 2, y is 3, and B is at also x is minus 2, but y is 0. So to get from A to B, I go down 3 squares, 1, 2, and 3. So the answer looks like 3. So let's put that into our answer box here. Next question says, what's the distance between B and C? Well, B is over here on the line y equals 0 and x is minus 2. C is on the same line, y equals 0, but it's on x equals 5. So we're going to go from here to here. Let's count the squares out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You could have said 5 minus a minus 2. If you have a minus or a minus, it becomes a plus. So 5 plus 2 would give you 7 as well. So the answer looks like 7. So let's put our 7 in there. And the third part of this first section on question 1, what's the distance between B and A? Well, B to A is the same as A to B. So the answer is going to be the same as our first answer, which is 3. It's a nice easy question to start with, or part of a question to start with. Now the second part of question 1, we've got to list some points. List 4 points that have distance 7 from point B. And note these may be off the graph that you're seeing on the left hand side. So let's go back to point B. We can work vertically, up and down, or we can work horizontally, left to right, right to left. Let's start and work vertically. We'll start with B. If I look at B, the value for y is 0. So I could add 7 to it. It will go off the graph, but y would now change from being 0 to 7, but x would stay the same as minus 2. So I can put down minus 2 for x and 7 for y. That's my first set of coordinates. If I can go north up, I can also go down. So if I go down 7, I will now have the same value for x, minus 2, but my y value will become minus 7. That's 7 away from B. Let's work horizontally now for the next 2 points. I'm starting at minus 2 and I'll go positive. I'll count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I end up at 5 for x, and of course I'm still on y equals 0 line, so it's going to be 5 for x and y is equal to 0. Going the other way, if I go 7 the other way, I'm going more negative, so my minus 2 going another minus 7 negative will become minus 9. Okay, so x becomes minus 9, but my y value stays the same, 0. Another way to put that is that if I take minus 2 and subtract off another 7, minus 2 minus 7 together give you minus 9. And for our last part, the last part of this question 1, what's the distance between 2, 2 and 2 minus 2? Let's have a look at those on the graph. So there is 2, 2 just here, and the other point at the same value for x, 2, but it's going to go down to minus 2, down this point here. So I've gone from 2 above to 2 below. Count the squares, 1, 2, 3, 4. So my distance should be 4. The difference really between the y values on both of these coordinates. So I'll put down 4, and now I think if we're feeling confident we can mark this to see if we've got a good score. How about that? We've got 11 out of 11 for question 1. So let's move on to question 2 then. Now for this question we're going to be finding the midpoints between two other points. Okay, so we'll start off with the fairly straightforward ones. The midpoint of A and B is at, well, let's look at A and B. There's A, there's B. The distance between them is 2 squares, 1, 2. So the midpoint is halfway at this location here. That location is x is minus 4 and y is equal to 1. So if we put in minus 4 and 1, that should be our answer. What about the next one? The midpoint of B and C. Well, let's look at B again. There's B and there's C. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 squares between them. So halfway is 2 squares at this point here. X is still minus 3. It's on the line x is minus 3, but y is 3. So we should be putting in x is minus 3 and y is 3. So far so good. What about the next one? This isn't quite so straightforward. The midpoint of C and A. Well, let's have a look at C and A. They're not lined up nicely vertically or horizontally. A is over here and C is over here. And we need to find the midpoint. You'll probably guess it's about here, but let's see why. We'll start with the y value for these two coordinates. The y value for A is on 1. The y value for C is on 5. And we need to get halfway between 5 and 1. Well, 5 minus 1 is 4. 4. So we want to count up 2 halfway. 1, 2. So we know that our point must be on this line somewhere. Y equals 3. Now it's not so difficult for the x coordinate, it just looks a bit more awkward. For A, the x coordinate is minus 5. And for C, the x coordinate is minus 3. Halfway between minus 3 and minus 5, minus 3, minus 5, is minus 4. So we must have our coordinate along this line, somewhere on x is minus 4. So the answer is it's x is minus 4, y equals 3. And there's the first 3 done already. Now, this next part looks even more challenging, but actually it's very straightforward once you plot the points. We want to find the midpoint between D and E. D is 1, 4, so let's have a look at that on the graph. There is x equals 1, y equals 4, so this is the point we're looking at, 1, 4. E is at 1 minus 2. On the same x equals 1 line, but it's down here at y equals minus 2. What's the distance between them? Well, let's count up from the bottom one to the top. 1, 2, 3 square, 4 square, 5 square, 6 square. Okay, I know it's 6 is the gap. So we need to go down 3 to get halfway. 1, 2, 3. So we're still on the same line, x equals 1, but we're at y equals 1. Y equals 1. So the x value doesn't change, and y becomes 1. And for the very last question, we're now going to go in a different direction. We're going to go on the horizontal direction, because f is minus 2, 2. Now where would that take us? X is minus 2 would take us over here, and y equals 2 would take us to this point. That's f. What about g? Well, g is 2, 2. So if we plot that, 2, 2, we're talking about that point there. So we've moved from this point to this point 4 squares. 1, 2, 3, 4. Halfway is 2 squares. 1, 2. We're back here. So x is now 0 and y is still 2 because we're on the line y equals 2. So we've put in a value 0 and y equals 2. And that should be all of our answers. And if we're feeling confident, we can now press the Mark It button to see how well we've done. And there we go. We've got 10 out of 10. Nothing more complicated than that.